Small towns carry a certain image in our minds. Picturesque streets, familiar faces, neighbors who wave, and doors often left unlocked. Places where danger seems distant, almost impossible. But the truth is chilling. Beneath the calm surface, some small towns harbor secrets. Unsolved murders that still echo through the years, leaving scars no amount of time can heal. And the most terrifying part? In many of these cases, the killer was never found, which means they could still be walking among the very same quiet streets today. Tonight, we're stepping into 3 small towns where violence shattered innocence, and where unanswered questions still hang like fog. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video to help us bring you more chilling stories. Now let's dive right in. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. Mill Creek, Indiana. Population just over 700. A farming town where kids rode their bikes freely, and Friday night football was the highlight of the week. But on a warm August evening in 1999, the town's peace was ripped apart. Patricia Laney, known to her friends as Patty, was just 19 years old. A farm girl with a wide smile, she dreamed of becoming a nurse. That night, she left her friend's house around 10:30 p.m., telling them she'd walk home. It was less than a mile. She never made it. The next morning, her body was found in a cornfield just outside of town. She had been attacked, brutally murdered, left where the rows of corn swayed in the summer wind. Her shoes were missing, her jewelry gone. And yet, there were no signs of a robbery. Whoever did this seemed to want something far darker. The sheriff's office launched an investigation, interviewing neighbors, friends, even her ex-boyfriend. But nothing stuck. There were no witnesses. No one heard her scream. The town was gripped by fear. Parents wouldn't let their children walk alone anymore. Farmers kept their shotguns by the door. And for the first time in decades, residents began locking their doors at night. Years passed. The cornfield grew tall each summer, and still no answers came. Patty's killer vanished back into the shadows. But here's the chilling part. Whispers began circulating in Mill Creek that the killer wasn't an outsider at all, that he lived right there among them. And to this day, no one knows the truth. If Mill Creek was shaken by one murder, Pine Ridge, Vermont was cursed with 2. Pine Ridge is the kind of town you drive through without noticing. Population barely 1,200, tucked between rolling hills and thick forests. But for the locals, it was home. Safe, quiet, and untouched by big city crime. Until 2005. On Halloween night, 17-year-old Rachel Porter and her best friend, Jessica Hale, were seen walking home from a party. They cut through Stony Hollow Road, a shortcut locals often used. They never arrived. The next morning, hunters found their bodies deep in the woods off the road. Both girls had been strangled. Their shoes were missing, just like in the Mill Creek case years earlier. The murders sent shockwaves through Pine Ridge. 2 innocent girls killed together on Halloween night. Rumors spread quickly. Some claimed it was a ritual killing. Others whispered about a serial predator. And then came the detail that shook the entire state of Vermont. Rachel's phone had been found, just feet from the crime scene. Its last text sent at 12:03 a.m. It read, "He's behind us." The case went cold. Police had leads, but nothing concrete. No arrests were ever made. And as the years dragged on, the Stony Hollow murders became a grim legend in Pine Ridge. Parents warned their children never to walk home at night. People avoided Stony Hollow Road entirely. But what if the killer never left? What if he's still in Pine Ridge, blending in with the crowd, watching? The last town we visit tonight lies in the heart of Texas. Marlow, a dusty little place with a population under 2,000. A town of diners, gas stations, and quiet nights. But in 2012, Marlow would become the stage for one of the most haunting unsolved murders in the state. The Desert Star Motel sat on the edge of town. It wasn't much, just 12 rooms, a neon sign that flickered at night, and a parking lot where tumbleweeds sometimes rolled. But for truckers passing through, it was a cheap stop to rest. On the night of May 3rd, a guest checked into room 8. Her name was Valerie Cross, 28 years old, traveling back from visiting her sister in New Mexico. She paid cash, smiled at the manager, and carried her duffel bag inside. By morning, she was dead. The cleaning lady found her lying across the bed, strangled, with no signs of forced entry. Her duffel bag was still there. Her wallet was untouched, but her shoes once again were missing. The motel staff was horrified. Guests were questioned. Security footage from the single grainy camera showed a tall figure entering Valerie's room at 2:14 a.m. and leaving 20 minutes later. The face was never visible. Police were baffled. No fingerprints, no DNA, no clear suspect. The only chilling detail? Guests in room 9, right next door, reported hearing faint footsteps in the hall, followed by a single, sharp knock. Then silence. To this day, room 8 at the Desert Star Motel is avoided. Locals say it feels cursed. Some claim they still hear footsteps at night, even though the room is empty. And Valerie's killer? Never caught. Pattern too chilling to ignore. 3 towns. 3 murders. 3 very different victims. But one disturbing similarity. In every case, the victim's shoes were missing. Coincidence? Or a signature? Some investigators began connecting the dots, wondering if these small-town murders, scattered across years and states, could be the work of the same predator. A drifter. A man passing through towns too small to suspect him. But if that's true, how many other towns has he haunted? How many other victims are out there, still undiscovered? The thought is terrifying because if this is one killer, he's been active for decades. Recently, new evidence surfaced that could tie these murders together. Evidence so disturbing it has investigators re-examining every detail. But what they found raises even more terrifying questions. Because the killer may not just be a drifter. He might be closer than anyone ever imagined. When Patricia Laney was found in that Indiana cornfield in 1999, investigators treated it as an isolated tragedy. The same was true for the Stony Hollow murders in Vermont and the motel killing in Marlow, Texas. Different states, different victims, different years. But the missing shoes, that detail was too specific, too strange to ignore. In homicide investigations, patterns matter. The way a killer operates, his method, his signature, often reveals more than the act itself. For some, it's how they bind their victims. For others, it's the messages they leave behind. In these cases, the missing shoes may be the calling card of a predator. By the late 2010s, a handful of independent investigators, retired detectives, crime writers, even internet sleuths, started piecing together the similarities. They asked a chilling question. Could one man be drifting from town to town, targeting women, and leaving behind a silent trail of missing shoes? There were 3 main theories. The trophy theory. Some believed the shoes were trophies, that the killer kept them as mementos, reliving the crimes each time he looked at them. Serial killers have been known to collect items like jewelry, hair, even photographs. Shoes, in this case, might have been his obsession. The message theory. Others argued the missing shoes were symbolic, that the killer wanted to send a message, that the victims had been robbed of their path, unable to walk into their future. It was cruel, almost poetic. The practical theory, a darker possibility lingered, that the shoes weren't symbolic at all, that the killer wore them himself, blending in with the crowd, carrying a piece of his victims in plain sight. Each theory was unsettling, but all led to the same conclusion. This wasn't random. A suspect emerges. In 2015, a break seemed possible. A man named Harold Denton, a drifter in his late 40s, was arrested in Oklahoma on unrelated charges. His DNA was tested against several unsolved crimes across the country. For a brief moment, hope flared. Maybe this was the man who had haunted small towns for years. But the results were inconclusive. His DNA didn't match the crime scenes in Mill Creek, Pine Ridge, or Marlow. Still, something about him unsettled investigators. He had worked odd jobs in trucking, traveling state to state, often staying in small towns along highways. And chillingly, in his storage unit, police found a box filled with women's shoes. None matched the known victims, but the evidence was enough to spark renewed interest. Denton was never charged in the small-town murders, but his shadow still looms large in online forums and true crime circles. For the families of the victims, The years of silence have been unbearable. Patty Laney's mother still leaves a pair of her daughter's sneakers by the front door, refusing to believe she's truly gone. Rachel Porter's younger brother became a police officer, determined to solve cases like his sister's. And Valerie Cross's sister, the one she had visited before her final drive, has spoken publicly about the guilt of letting her travel home alone that night. What makes these stories so haunting isn't just the brutality. It's the absence of answers, the empty space where justice should be, and the haunting question that refuses to go away. What if the killer is still out there? In 2021, 2 decades after Patty Laney's murder, detectives in Indiana received a tip. A local man, known only as RJ, was rumored to have kept a hidden box in his barn. Inside were women's shoes. He had died years earlier, but when relatives searched the barn, they claimed to have found a pair of sneakers that looked eerily similar to those Patty once wore. The box was turned over to authorities. DNA testing is ongoing, but the discovery reignited the small town's fears. Could RJ have been the killer all along? Or was he just another disturbed collector? Meanwhile, online investigators took the hunt further. On true crime forums and Reddit threads, people began mapping the murders, searching for overlooked connections. One disturbing pattern emerged. All 3 towns, Mill Creek, Pine Ridge, and Marlow, sit near major highways. Highways often traveled by truckers, drifters, and salesmen. The kind of person who could slip in, commit a crime, and vanish without a trace. If the same killer was responsible, his hunting ground wasn't just small towns. It was the roads that connected them. Here's the most disturbing theory yet. What if the murders we know about are just the tip of the iceberg? What if there are more victims, buried in forgotten fields, discarded near highways, left behind in towns too small to make the news? If that's true, then the cases we've heard about, the cornfield in Indiana, the woods in Vermont, the motel in Texas, may not be isolated tragedies. They may be the few times the killer slipped up and left enough behind to be noticed. And if he's still alive, he may still be hunting. Recently, investigators uncovered something that ties the cases together in a way that's hard to ignore. Security footage from a small gas station in rural Arkansas, dated just months before Valerie Cross's murder, shows a man in a baseball cap, buying coffee and cigarettes. He pays cash. As he turns to leave, the camera catches a glimpse of what he's carrying. The footage has never been released publicly. The man has never been identified. But detectives believe he may hold the key to the mystery. And the most terrifying part? Some claim he looks exactly like a man still living quietly in one of those small towns today. Tell us what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling stories.